All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are ready to go now. I'd like to ask you to please rise and join me for a moment of silence, and we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Pete Hamill.
Here.
Ken Snyder.
Here.
Brett Hint.
Here.
Wayne Barahona.
Here.
Tom Eggers.
Here.
All right, next item up is call for the approval of the agenda.
I move we approve. Support.
Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Eggers.
Aye.
Barahona.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Item 3 is the public forum. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to address the council at this time? Have we had any written comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Marvin Reeson called today and said $50,000 to Beck Engineering to draw up plans for a new fire station is too much. This should be bid on. The city has paid Beck Engineering a lot of money, and why haven't they built a building out east like they said that they would? That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for your comments. Moving on then to the consent agenda. Take approval for that.
Make a motion. Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hint.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Barahona.
Aye.
Then under new business, first item up there is a second reading of the proposed text amendments to the zoning code. I'd like to open that now. Okay. Need a motion to approve that, I guess, instead.
Make that motion. Support. Yeah, I can amend my motion to waive third reading as well. Support.
Have we had any written comments addressing the code
None.
changes? Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Barahona.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
All right, the second item under new business is a presentation from Emergency Services. Who's going to lead that discussion? Very good.
Wish all my meetings could get to like a page fast.
Let the talker
Yeah.
lead the presentation.
All right.
All right, Chuck Ball with the Sheldon Fire Department, and
Kristen Hahn with staff.
so we're kind of here today to give you like an update on where we've been at. About a year ago, we put an Emergency Services Committee together, which basically involved police, fire, EMA, and ambulance. And it kind of started with SCAT looking at a building at some point to try to look at a new facility, not having any luck with that. We kind of sat down and went, okay, we need to get together as a group and kind of figure out what's everybody need, how do we move forward, and what's kind of the best solution with this. So that's kind of what we've done. It's been about a year since we started this committee, working through some things, give or take. Basically what we got together and did is, what does everybody need? What are our goals? What do we need to get where we have to go? And the overwhelming response was space. Everybody had some needs, majority of which space would solve. So we kind of start exploring different avenues of how do we do this. And then what we're here doing today is basically showing you where we're at, what we found, what our thoughts are from there. So with departments, we kind of looked at everybody's needs. Police department, Scott, do you want to talk about it or you want me to? Okay. So police department, their needs like our shower and decontamination area, updated bathrooms, an armorer room, evidence processing room, training room, larger group or larger garage for vehicles as their vehicles grow, And then the stairs was a big issue for them. Trying to get intoxicated people up and down stairs is a challenge, and then trying to put them into a elevator is somewhat of a security risk. So they were looking at that as their biggest needs. Scat, you want to do yours?
Sure.
Perfect.
So, most of you, I've presented to you guys, my needs for the SCAT team. We're in need of space, garage space, storage space, room for training. We kind of went through this process of talking to you guys about a year ago with unsuccessful, buildings to meet our needs. So we really do need space to grow for our fleet, for our team, for ambulances, for, you know, lots of different reasons, but that's what SCAT's needs are.
Like right now, the emergency response vehicle for SCAT sits outside. There's just not even room in the facility to have that car indoors. And then EMA, we talked with Wayne, you're kind of in the same boat. You've got the library as your house for the
Thanks,
EMA
Nicole.
truck. What's that?
So thanks, Nicole.
So, you know, we're not even storing a lot of these emergency vehicles in the emergency services building because there's just physically not room for that. So, and then obviously a meeting area for the EMA as well. Fire department for us, our hopes are an additional tanker. And right now we just can't move forward with any of that because we don't have anywhere to put it. There's been talk of grass rig in the future. One of the next things we're going to need is a special response trailer, which is going to be our hazmat gear, our grain bin rescue stuff. Right now, we've got some stored at the training center. We've got some stored at the fire station. Just nowhere to put it because we can't put a trailer inside. There's not room for that either. So trying to get stuff consolidated. And then for us, meeting room, like right now we meet in the bays. EMA obviously is an issue for us, bringing a truck in-house, and then storage space is always an issue. So what we kind of did is we started looking at, okay, what options are out there? What can we do to try to solve this problem? One thing we've talked about in the fire department is putting a bay onto the south of the fire station. That's been a conversation piece for us for probably 3 or 4 years at some point. So we started looking, okay, if we did that, we're going to lose part of our parking area where we come in to respond to calls. So we would have to put people into the city parking lot to respond. And the downside of that is when the cops are going out, the police are going out, the fire department's going out, that becomes a very dangerous spot to start walking through with people in a response call. So the other downside of that is it doesn't solve any problems for anybody else. So just adding a bay on for us might solve some issues for us, but it's not going to help SCAT, it's not going to help the police, it's not going to help EMA. We looked at SCAT going in a new facility. So if they found somewhere else, how could we utilize that space? So we kind of talked about that, and the current SCAT building really isn't large enough to fit a fire truck in. We would be able to bring the EMA truck into that. We might be able to get a trailer possibly, but it's not going to accommodate any of the fire trucks in those buildings. So might help with the police for parking in a garage, but it's not going to provide everything for everybody. EMA would have a home out of that. So we talked about what if we build a new fire station. So we built a new fire station, fire and EMA would come in together under one house. With the current fire station, we'd take that space now and make that the new space for SCAT. They would have an expanded room there, able to fit all of their equipment in, remodel that for their needs to make that fit for them. The police have talked about the basement of the city building. I don't know what you want to call that exactly, but downstairs. Taking that over and making that the police station where you got no stair access, things like that, work better to fit their needs, give them room to expand, room to grow, and then they would obviously take over the garage spaces if that's what they desire to do there too. So realistically, this seemed to be like the best plan for us. As we started looking at everybody's needs, this is the one that fit everybody's needs. The fire department gains, SCAT gains, EMA gains, and even the police gain, and the city, if the police move downstairs, gain office space up here for city office stuff. So we also talked about what if we don't do anything? Keep it the way it is, live life like we're doing. Everybody's growing, and that's a great thing in Sheldon. Our departments are doing well. We're getting good people coming in. We're growing. That's not the same for every town around here. There's a lot of departments that are shrinking and dwindling. This is a great thing that we're still expanding and doing a better job. So if we don't do anything, we're still in the spot where we don't have room for stuff. We've got stuff stored outside. It's going to be an issue that keeps continuing. At some point, we're going to have to do something. So status quo might get us by for a little while, but it's going to be a problem we have to solve at some point here in the future. So with all that, we basically got together and said fire station makes the most sense. Obviously, project-wise, it would have to be done in stages. You'd have to do the new station, and then you'd have to come in and remodel the old fire station to fit SCAT's needs, and do the police station at that point too. So it's not going to be one big fail swoop. It's going to have to be done as a process. But that seemed to make the most sense to us. So from there, we started looking at, okay, where would we put it? So a lot of different locations kind of went through our head. And this dates back a year, so some of these you're going to see were kind of in process of being sold and things like that. So we looked at the old Stand-Aid location. That was back when that was for sale. The farmstead just to the north of Highway 18 by the hospital there. We looked at that area. The old 60 Motel area down there on 2nd Avenue. We talked about land just south of the Lutheran Cemetery on Washington Avenue, just on the south side of the tracks there. We talked about the city ballpark, and then we also talked about land out on the east side. And all of these have pros and cons to where they are. So the next question for us is how big? What do you do? So we talked it back and we started figuring out just rough square footage. What square footage would we need for apparatus bay? If you got a meeting room, how big would that have to be? How big would bathrooms have to be? And we just got rough square footage estimates so we could figure out where would this fit. So that's basically what we did, and we started plugging that into all the different areas and seeing what we liked, what would work, what would function the best. What we decided was, for us, the East Ball Diamond at the city park is probably going to be the best fit for us. So this is obviously not a full drawing. This is literally just a rectangle box with square footage in it. So don't get worried. It's not a design. Oh, here comes Justin. So all this is basically the rectangle boxes representing the square footage. What we liked about this spot is we had access to a controlled intersection without going through the city. So we'd come out onto 5th Avenue or 6th Avenue there and go to a controlled light. The access from Highway 18 would just be entering the fire station. We did talk to the DOT and it sounded like that would be okay as long as it's about the same size as the 5th Avenue. So for us, that one makes the most sense. We're not traveling through the city streets, things like that. It's just a good functionality in the central part of town for us yet. So that's kind of what we're leaning towards. With that, SCAT has some drawings of the old fire station. So
Mine aren't as pretty as that.
I did not draw that. So
Yeah, I did that with my drawing abilities, just to show, don't laugh, just to show what the potential for expansion would be to meet SCAT's needs moving into the fire department, just to make sure that our needs would be met prior to, furthering our discussions with our committee. So I kind of rough draft it as a meeting SCAT's needs, and we made it work. It meets our needs. It's got a little even more room for us to grow with our future expansions with our department. So that's my sum up of SCAT area, which would be SCAT's current area, all the way through the fire department. With my Etch-a-Sketch, no, just kidding.
So really what we're here today to do is ask for some way to move forward. So there's been that lost account that has the money set aside for this at some point. Because our next steps are basically going to be, can we get this building drawn and figure out what a project like this would cost? Because right now we really have no idea. I know that $4.5 million is out there, but that's just a guess. So our next steps are going to be try to explore what this is going to look like, what this project would cost. And right now that's about where we're stuck, is we got to have money to go that route. So, and answer any questions that you guys might have.
I've got a question.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it took me a little bit to figure out who was talking to me, Tom.
Sorry, not a problem. Sorry I can't be there today, but thanks for the presentation. Could hear everything you said. Thank you. So what is the estimated cost of the reconfiguration of the old firehouse for SCAT
We don't.
and the police department?
That's what we don't know. This is where this engineering money would have to come in to find out what any of this would cost. So that's where we're stuck at, is we don't know how to go forward until we figure out any of these costs and things like that. So we do not
So
know
the
any of this.
CIP that you have in there for the fire department building at $4 million doesn't really have a basis?
No, a guess. It's a guess.
Is that just for the station or for your guess for
We're-
everything?
That was our best guess for the station, but, you know, until you move forward with the engineering, I hate guessing numbers in this day and age, because you could be off a lot, and I don't know that. So that's what we're here today asking is, can we get the funds to go forward with figuring out what this is going to look like and what would this project cost? And from there, then we can start planning and figure out financials, and it's just us to try to keep the ball moving at this point. So.
One last question, and I'll let the rest of the council take over. But what is the strategic plan for each of the emergency services? I've heard a lot through the presentation about growing and stuff like that. But what's all that based upon?
I think it's a good basis is a foundation to start, continue meeting the needs of our community. I mean, we continue to have the need for expansion. The fire said that they need additional rigs to help meet the needs of the community and the potentials. SCAT, we need space to continue to grow our team and our fleet and have room for us to do the things we need to do. I think so. It's meeting, the first aspect is meeting the needs that our community needs us for, and growing to do that.
Yep.
Does
that answer your question, Tom?
Well, it gives me direction, thank you. I'm not sure it really answers my question because I still can't visualize why we would need extra fire vehicles and why we would need extra.
Yeah, so for us, what you're seeing in the area is dwindling services around the area, not being able to help respond in a lot of cases. So that for us is a challenge. When we don't have tankers coming in, we're responsible for our own deal. So that tanker would be an extra rig for us to cover our rural area and in-town areas. The equipment that we have already just doesn't have a home. So, I mean, we've got equipment to provide services with nowhere to go with them, so.
I guess I'll jump in and say what I did the last meeting. I wish somehow in this process we had some kind of guideline. Yes, we've seen 10% growth in the community, but not 50 or 80% growth. What should we be expected to provide? I don't have a clue. I don't know where those guidelines are, and in this process maybe we can accomplish that and look down the road, but I guess my concern is that all of a sudden the fire station went from 2 or 3 years out to next budget cycle, and I don't see that happening. I don't know how, we haven't identified any funding or anything.
Yeah, and to me, this is the first step in that, is we can't do funding until we find out a cost. I don't know that this is going to be a fast process at all, but until you know how much it costs, how do you move forward? And that's kind of where we're stuck at.
You gotta have a number in the budget, that's where we came from.
Yeah.
We've had building addition in the CIP for the last number of years. We've never acted on that. And we've just gotten together with other departments and come up with a plan. And here we are. Can we move this plan forward? So we have those numbers, so we can start budgeting for it.
I think another push to move it up, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have the EMS task force. And the EMS task force identified space as one substantial need that all emergency services needed. So I think we continued on making this committee and making sure that our needs were all voiced and what we needed. And the need is there, so the push is starting to be there. That was one of the identified problems with all of the task force discussions, was the need for space, the need for growth.
But you're looking for this to start, you would like to start in the next budget period, or, I was thinking
There's no way.
when I heard I was at one of those meetings that you had, you were looking at a longer term deal, you know, planning down the road a couple of years, 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, we don't know that until we know a number. I mean, right now, we're at the stage of just trying to figure out what would this cost. Then you gotta figure out from there, how do you budget for it?
Do you have any idea what it would cost to get those figures for you? Have you come up with an estimate for that?
What we've been told is roughly $50,000.
So we've had a conversation with Beck, what it would take to get us to number, a design, to be able to go to design, but not to bid. And that was roughly $50,000.
But that doesn't answer Pete's question, though. It doesn't go into-
Is that for all services?
I believe that was for the new station and the remodeling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that what kind of
Would that take care of,
Sam?
would that take care of everything that was in the presentation?
The way I understand it, yes, that would get you to a certain point. You're gonna know what everybody's doing as far as construction goes. So you'll have a good plan, but it's not gonna get you to like the bid letting depth of the plan, is what I've been told.
Is that kind of what
Okay,
Brad told
thanks.
us that day, Sam, when we talked to him?
Yeah, no, that's correct, Brad. And then relating to that is our zoning code would require a trip to the Board of Adjustment. And it doesn't have to be at the very, very beginning of the process, but it should be closer to the beginning. It would require what's called a special exception for safety services. So that would require a public hearing and notification to the neighbors. With this plan, this plan is detailed enough that if this is the approximate footprint of the building, this would be enough to take to the Board of Adjustment. But the code doesn't say when you need to come to the Board of Adjustment. That's really at the discretion of the council.
Have we explored funding sources for any of this?
We're at the beginning of that.
So, yeah.
Well, if my memory serves, there's $50,000 in the current budget that the fire department put in, correct?
Yes.
That we took action on earlier in the budget year, not knowing exactly how we were going to be able to meet our budget for this year. And I think the motion was read that at the middle of the budget, this year's budget, current budget, we would see if there is that $50,000 available, and if that is the case, someone can tell us if that's the case. I think you have your funding, correct?
That's the way we understood it, yeah, and that's kind of basically what we're asking for today is, can we access that funding to move forward and try to find a number of what this project would cost?
I was doing a little looking during this discussion. Alton just built a new, or in addition to, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
fire station. That was an 8,850 square foot project for 2.1 million. They bonded for 2 million, I think. Just reading quickly through. How many square feet are you talking in what you have on paper right now?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't even know that number off the top of my head. I don't have that with me either, so.
Have you seen the Alton?
Yep, I was down there a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's kind of funny when you look around, you can tell everything grows about the same pace because as you look around communities, everybody's kind of in the same boat, doing the same thing. So you've had Alton, you've had Orange City, you've had Sioux Center, you've got Hospers, you've got Boyden, all have been through this process in the last 10 years. And
Granville?
yeah, Granville, yep. So everything grows at the same pace, trucks get bigger at the same pace, and everybody's got the same problems about the same time, it seems like, so.
Well, Brad's looking, the other thought I had, Sioux Center has, and granted, they're a little bigger community, but they have 2 fire stations, and I think 4 proximity to
Yep.
each end of town, perhaps. Was that part of the discussion at
Yeah,
all?
we've talked about 2 stations before, and for us, the response, it just doesn't gain us much. trying to respond to two different places when the bulk of our people come from the center of town. You're just sending people out to the east end of town farther to go to another rig. And now you've got another building to maintain and things like that. Doesn't gain us enough on ISO to really be much of a credit. So we've kind of just stuck with the one department, the one building as a better option for us at this point.
Okay.
So.
They have a rough idea. That they had a second story and we're not doing the finished upstairs. So you're right around, looks like 20,000. And if you expand on the east side of town, whenever we've had a call out there from Country Club Road, it's a bottleneck,
Yeah.
and you won't get responders out there. That was one of our biggest things about being centrally located. You go out east, you can't get there. Highway 18's plugged up. I mean, every accident you have, we can all contest to what a nightmare it is to get through, and if you're trying to get through with your personal vehicles, it's even worse.
18's a challenge.
But basing that on, if we would look at Alton, what Alton did, and granted, it's not an apples to apples, and
Right.
it's an educated guess. Yep, it gives you a little bit more information to work with, but the 4.5 might be a little on the short side, given the fact that we are now a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road before it actually goes to construction.
Yep. Yeah,
And
that's the
it's
unknown.
more
We have
than
no
double
idea.
that, you know, that 20,000 square feet, you said, right, 20,000?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, so you're a little more than double that.
Yep.
So.
And that's the goal of this, is using that
Right.
lost money fund to try to find out a number, see what it looks like. Because until then, I don't know what else to do other than get a number and then move forward to figure out how you do budgets and how do we finance it and when's that going to happen. And this is, to us, the first step in that process. We've got a plan. What's that plan going to cost? And then from there, how do we do that? Is it feasible?
Like part of planning streets or the water tower or water expansion or expanding on the east side. You gotta come up with a plan before you know what it's gonna cost.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Angie, do we have the 50,000 available in this year's budget?
Yes, I would say yes.
Because it was just,
Then I think the council should move forward with approval for the budgeted item.
Are you making that as a motion, Tom?
Well, if I might,
Yeah, you can take that as a motion.
this would require a professional services agreement with Beck, which we do have. We just got it. We haven't put it on the agenda, so it requires formal approval by the council.
Okay.
I could put that on the,
I'm just talking about the funds, Sam.
oh, I see. Making the funds available.
I would say making the funds available, and then that gives them a start point.
So for the record, state your motion, how you would like it stated, Tom.
That I would make a motion that we, I guess, release the funds that was budgeted in this year's fiscal budget of $50,000 to begin the process of that's been outlined here today.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
I'll support that.
Further discussion?
I have a question. Do we need to bring back a proposal from Beck on this to have the council approve it, or is this a go-ahead that we can hire Beck?
It needs to have official approval.
Okay.
We'll just put it on a consent
Next month?
consent calendar.
Next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't see any trouble, examine it, as long as we don't have to make any commitments at this time. But it would be nice to know.
That's where we're at, is just to find out where we are, so.
Okay. There's no one else? Anybody have nothing else? Then we'll call the
I guess-
roll call. Go ahead, Pete.
we have to explore it to look at it, and I'm in favor of that process, but we need to somehow we need to find a way to decide what our needs are in a community of this size, what should be expected. I still feel strongly about that. I don't know where to go for that kind of service.
What's the cost of that?
I don't know, but I don't feel competent to decide, you know.
That's kind of why you have department heads from,
Well, I know, but I don't want
Public
this to,
Works
I don't want this to turn into a Christmas catalog, whatever anybody can wish for, okay? We have a responsibility to the community to make sure that we're
don't think it's a
being
wish list.
responsible.
I think it's part of the needs that our departments have come up with. Todd comes up with needs of the water and streets, and Mark comes up with projects of expansion for development. That's what we have department heads for, to bring this information to the city council, to guide the city council.
As you're talking, Pete, I think what would be helpful for me would be to say what area, and I don't know how easy it is to get the information, but the Sioux Center has population of 700, they have 2 stations, X amount of trucks, so many personnel. Orange City has this. I mean, if we could, gauge it that way, I don't know if that information is readily available, but I mean.
We've had that discussion of 1 station, 2 stations, and our committee and officers have decided we will work the best out of 1 station.
And I'm not arguing.
I think I get where you're at. You're kind of like, okay, as Orange City, what is their population base? What do they have for
How
equipment?
many
What
trucks,
numbers?
how many personnel, I mean, that
Some kind of
goes to
guidelines.
what
I get what you're saying.
Pete's looking at. That's the question he's asking.
Otherwise, it's, maybe we need 3 ladder trucks.
Yep.
I don't know.
Oh, I get you.
Does ISO have, like, as far as the ratings go, like, okay,
Yep.
in a town of this size, you need, to have the
Yep, they've got
preferred
a-
rating, you'd have X.
There should be something out there.
They've got a minimum standard,
I
and
do-
we
that's-
meet those standards. So,
You're meeting them
I
currently.
don't want to
as a minimum standard, they basically look at pump capacity. They don't look at it as a truck necessarily. A lot of it is pump capacity and water capacity and things like that. So we just finally passed the water capacity by a couple hundred gallons finally with the addition of a bigger tank on engine 4 at the last purchase. So before that, we were short.
some kind of a basis,
Yeah.
so that I can answer people that ask me, other than just whatever anybody wishes for.
Yep. And I think there's going to be a lot more discussion on this as we move forward. When you get a
Yeah.
price and things like that,
That
this is
being
not the
said,
end of the,
It just scares me when I saw that move to next year's budget all of a
yep.
sudden. I'll tell you that probably isn't gonna happen.
I get, it's, before, it was basically just the fire department, and then this last year with this committee, then you start realizing the needs of all the other departments, and this being basically an issue that can be solved with one project.
I understand.
Yep.
When I look down at the grand total down at the bottom, it scares me to death,
Yep,
okay?
yep.
What will this do to our, number one is, can we afford, what can we afford as a city? I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure,
It comes down to
you
the
know.
money. Number 2 is, how does that affect each individual taxpayer?
Well,
You know, we just
you're
had raises.
putting the cart before the horse here.
We gotta find the number
You
first.
need a number first.
Yeah.
in
Right,
order to-
and that's why I said,
But, I mean,
that's
we gotta
fine,
add all
let's
this
investigate
stuff
it.
together. Right, I agree with you.
I
Don't
think,
throw the number out there.
That's why we
You
did
don't,
that.
you have to start somewhere, and that's where we are tonight, is trying to start something so we can get that number,
So we know.
so we know what direction to go. We've pushed other projects down the road, once we found out what the costs were, but we don't know what the cost is yet.
Yeah.
But I thought that's what we were voting.
That's what,
the cost, we're voting only now to allow $50,000 to move forward with a
Right.
plan, a rough
And we
plan.
had a motion, right?
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
I guess, yeah, and that part is fine, but I sit and I look at this, and when I moved to town, the town was about 5,000 people, okay, and that was 30, 40 years ago. It's still between 5,000 and 6,000 people, only we're looking at numbers that would,
But
if you went and compared them, it'd scare us to death, and yes, I know the needs are different.
We've grown.
We've-
We've got a lot more houses than we did,
Spread out more.
spread out more.
To a point, yes.
So we're just looking for a balance in there.
Yeah, we're just looking for a number to start with. And after that, we understand there's gonna be a lot more conversation of how are you guys gonna finance that, or can we finance that, and we just
think-
don't know any of that until we get a number, so.
I think the presentation tonight has you've done a great job of laying it out. I think you've done your homework. And it reminds me of when we had the discussion about a new versus a used ladder truck a couple, 3 years ago, whatever that was. Initially coming into it, I thought it was crazy going
Yep.
with a new truck, but you guys ran the numbers, you did your homework, and it did make sense. And it changed my mind. And so I think, if we can get that kind of information, some of the stuff we've talked about now, just to kind of get everybody thinking about if it makes sense, then we find a way.
No, we're taxpayers
all
too, we hope we spend it right. I mean, we get that. It's a large chunk, we understand that, but we just don't know
Yeah.
how to move forward without a number at this point, so.
At this point, I'd move forward with that, the motion.
Then we
because
need,
we could say no or yes.
yes, you're right.
Yeah, we're a long way from that,
Yeah.
so.
I'm okay with moving forward with that, with
With the
motion.
allowance of the use of $50,000 funds like it's up there on the board, on the screen. Anything else other than I'm going to call for the question? Roll call, please.
Eggers,
Aye.
Farahona,
Aye.
Hint,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Very good.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you all for your many hours of work on this already. All right, next item up, consideration of the capital improvement plan. Comments from you at all on that? Nope, okay. Any other questions or?
I guess the question is, what are we actually doing? If we approve the capital improvement plan, what are the consequences?
You are approving a planning document for the budget. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that's in
I
the
was gonna
CIP,
say, I
doesn't
don't
mean
think
that
our budget's
everything
gonna
that's in
stand
the,
$12 million worth of capital improvement next year. I don't see that.
I think every year I've been on the city council, we've approved this document. And it all comes down to the time of budget time. It's just a work.
Yeah, I think this is just an official action to accept what has been presented to the council for budgeting purposes, correct?
Yeah, more just that we've received these plans.
From the department.
Yeah.
So we cut at budget time, is that what you're saying?
Well, we
Or cut
haven't,
what? Cut down.
not always, but
Each
It's a
department has
possibility.
their proposal,
Okay.
and it's
Okay.
contingent on the council
There's
to.
been stuff in last year's budget that was in the capital improvement plan, came to budget, and got nixed. So, not everything in this is gonna go through.
Perfect example of that would be the water tower.
Yep.
You first saw the water tower in the CIP in like 2015. It finally got authorized through budget in 2023, whatever.
It's a working document for the council to go into the budget workshops and have something to gauge and start to prioritize on, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
Very good. I make a motion, we accept the CIP as it's been presented by each of the departments.
Support.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamel,
aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hint,
Aye.
Farahona,
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Very good. All right, we move now into the reports portion of our meeting. First up, Nicole is going to tell us what's going on in the been going on in the library lately.
Going to move that down just a little bit. Well, thank you for allowing me just a couple minutes to talk tonight. I just kind of wanted to give you an update on what's been happening at the library. This is just a snapshot, obviously, of what's been going on this past fiscal year. I did the report a little bit different than what I did last year. I kind of focused last year on some Google reviews. This year I was kind of focusing a little bit more on just how the library can be a benefit to communities. Your library is enriching a vibrant community with access to information and technology, serving as a community gathering space, fostering readers, and stimulating minds. So that's our mission statement. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you. I know you can all read it, but just so you can kind of understand where the library is coming from. Last year I also focused quite a bit on how the internet was helping people. And you'll notice this year one of the things that we got, and it's not actually on this page, but I thought I'd mention it, is we got hotspots from a federal grant. That'll probably be on next year's report, but I did want to share that with you. For people who don't have access at home. What I did also want to share with you, though, is just our circulation. And I was kind of sharing this on our directors meeting the other day, and you can see we had quite a jump from fiscal year 2021 to 2023, 21%. And you're going, well, yeah, but that was COVID, which is true. But we still had a 9% increase from last year. So we are jumping quite a bit, and we are having, we did have that increase with the population. So people are coming into the library. We did get a door counter a few years ago, so our door count is more accurate. We had over 11,000 library visits, and that's actually people coming in to use the library. As I've mentioned before, we have an outside book drop. So a lot of people who just want to return their books are dropping them off outside. So that's people coming in either to read a newspaper. We have a group of people that do that in the morning. Use our computers for things like filling out job applications, doing taxes. They've done that. I'm trying to think, look up health information, quite a bit of different things. And then you can also see we had quite a few website visits. One of the things that we were able to add this year with the help of our Library Foundation was a library virtual tour. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at that, you might want to check that out. That is on our homepage. And then you can see our Wi-Fi sessions were up as well. We did notice that our amount of people using our computers has gone down a little bit because a lot of people are able to bring in their own computers or their phones. And so another thing that we have added, and I believe I mentioned this last year too, was mobile printing. So that's really coming in handy. People are able to print straight from their mobile phones or from their laptops. And then I highlighted just a couple of programs, and you're like, are these all the programs you've had? Of course not. But I wanted to show you, we have the 1,000 books before kindergarten, so we're aiming at the really little kids. And then we have the Mahjong, which you can see those are a little bit older and more retired people. The 1,000 books before kindergarten is aimed at birth to about 5 or 6 years old, so whenever they start kindergarten. We were able to start that program, if you recall. We were able to get a $4,000 grant from the Early Childhood Iowa Association. And what that does is it helps promote kids to get 1,000 books read before kindergarten, which sounds like a lot, but actually if you only read 2 to 3 books a night, you can do it in about a year. And for those of you who have children, I think that's most of you, kids love to have the same book read again and again and again. And then the Mahjong program was something that we collaborated with NCC. They were actually able to teach Mahjong out at the college, and then we have been able to hold the program at our library. And you'll notice now that the players are getting better at it, we're inviting people in to learn how to do it. And then I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about me. I've been here almost now for 7 years already. It's kind of gone by rather quickly. I was kind of adding up my years the other day. I started out as a school librarian for 5 years, and then I started going into the public library service. So I do have my master's in school library science, but you might not know that I have been working on another master's degree in library information science through Emporia State, and that is actually certified through the American Library Association. So on top of working full-time, I've been going to graduate school part-time this past year, about a year and a half, and I will be graduating in May with that degree. And because of that, I am an honor student with the Beta Phi Mu. That means you have to have at least a 3.75 GPA, and you have to have been invited to, recognized by one of your professors as being potential for leadership. And then the State Library of Iowa, and you're going, okay, level 6, so what does that mean? There's 6 levels, so that means that I'm obviously at the highest level. That also helps with our accreditation with the library, which in turn, you'll be interested in this, helps us get more money from the state library. Do you guys have any questions about the library? I know I've kind of presented last year about some information, and I know Pete and Ken have both been on the library board.
Staffing wise, how are you sitting right now?
I kind of say this every year. If you'll notice, our program numbers have gone down by quite a bit. We did have to cut some programming because we are having problems just having enough staff members to fit the programs. Our children's librarian is only 25 hours per week. I'm the only full-time person. I have tried to do some flexibility with scheduling so that we were able to stay open now an hour later. And we've done that the past couple of years. We've had some good feedback with that. So I think that door counter is helping us see the trend that people are coming in that 5 to 6 hour. So I'll be honest, we are having some frustration with the amount of trying to get things done, especially with the increase of number of books circulating, as well as just the number of people coming in.
Yes. Could you talk briefly, you're doing some good work with surrounding communities. Can you talk briefly about that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So you're doing some good work with surrounding communities.
Oh,
can you talk
sure.
briefly about that?
Yeah, so what we've been doing is we have been working with Sioux Center, Orange City, and NCC, is that what you're referring to? With collaborating with them. We haven't been doing quite as much collaboration with them this year, but we are doing programming with them where we promote our own programming and we promote their programming. Another thing that we do in order to save money is we try to get one presenter and then everybody shares the cost and the presenter goes around to the different libraries within the couple of days. That way they can share mileage. We're also had the O'Brien County we had one presenter come in and they were able to pay for that as well.
Anyone else?
No, it's been fun to see the evolution in the programs and in the way the library has changed to meet today's needs. I was involved for a couple of years.
Yeah, we've had some really great feedback. We've been really getting a lot of feedback just about the number of new books. If you haven't been in the library lately, we do keep new books about 11 months back because that's what people really like to go and look at. We've been compared to some larger libraries, and that's kind of fun to have that people really like our book selection. And I've been very purposeful about that. Some of the things that I've implemented is what's called patron-driven collection. And that just means I try to buy what people want. So I have forms both in paper and online with people to suggest what kind of books they want. And so I do buy a lot of things that people would like. I've also had a lot of good feedback about the number of programs that we are doing. And I tell people, that's great. Feel free to tell your elected officials. So hopefully they're passing the word along. All right. Well, thank you again for your time tonight.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. All right, moving on. Anything from you, Sam?
Yes, briefly. Usually I don't have much to say in this portion of the agenda since my report speaks for itself, but I would like you to, if you can take a moment, click into it and take a look at the third bullet point down. I just want to briefly explain this because this will help as we move into the budget discussion. So there's two major changes that the legislature made this year. One is the consolidation of 3 different levies, and the other is the increasing the rollback from 54 cents to 46 cents. So let me explain that first. So if you have a $100,000 house in the current fiscal year, it's taxed at $54,000. And that will now change to, in the new fiscal year, the rollback means for residential is that it will be a $100,000 home will be taxed at $46,000. The calculation from the League of Cities is that between this and the elimination of several, actually this alone, the assessments will need to, would have to go up by 17.5% to stay even. Now, many of our assessments did go up by 17% or more. But one of the other facets of the changes that were made is the elimination of 3 different levies. So let's talk about that very briefly. There's the emergency levy, which was the legislature's way of raising the $8.10 levy without raising the $8.10 levy. So instead of raising it to $8.37, as was requested by the League of Cities years ago, the compromise at that time was to put in place an emergency levy, which most cities take, and that's used for typically the general fund. That's 27 cents. The library levy is the same amount, and then there's the 13.5 cent optional pavilion levy. So those 3 levies are being eliminated. The associated funding is currently not being eliminated, but would be by 2029. So again, it's important to stay positive. And with that being said, we do not benefit as much from growth going forward as we did before in terms of our budget, and that's a concern that has been raised by many cities across the state to the League of Cities and to legislators. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. There's 2 really good links inside my report. If you could take a moment and read that. Angie and I have been trying to sort out what the scheduling changes are and the hearing changes. There's a number of changes that have been made that in the notification process that we're working through, and the new process is much less forgiving than the current process. So if there's an error made or a hearing missed, the consequences are much greater than they were before. So anyway, the budget workshops are scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, the 23rd and 24th of January, and I'm working on the agenda to that, or we are working on the agenda to that already.
Okay, any questions for Sam?
And move on. Todd, anything from you tonight?
Yeah, just one thing, a little update on Lewis and Clark. Obviously, you all know the history's been a system of delays, right, through federal funding and everything. It started in 1990, in 2000 it was authorized. We were supposed to have water in 2012, been delayed ever since. And then if we get to a closer future here, or closer past, in September, we as city staff told you we were going to be hooked up in November. And then in November, late November, we said we're going to be hooked up the week of December 4th. And I'm here to tell you today we have one more delay. Hopefully next week, maybe the week after. At this point, I'm just hoping by Christmas the water will be flowing. But it is coming. Contractors are getting close. We will switch disinfection processes when it starts. And then once we're hooked up and all the new equipment is dialed in, then we'll start a media blast on what we need people to do and what they can do to save themselves some money in their homes by turning their water softeners down and those type things. So more to come.
Hey, Todd, for clarification, the recent delays are not budgetary, though, correct?
That is correct. It's just contractor meeting schedules.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Mark, anything tonight from you? Okay. Scott? Oh, he left. Never mind. Angie?
No, thank you.
Council to my left. Wayne or Tom?
No, thank you.
All right. We will look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks, and for that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I as well.
I'll take one of those. Roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Snyder. Eggers.
Aye.
Hint. Farahona.
Thanks, Todd.
You bet.
Wayne did it.